Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 663. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge. I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim, the sensei of the whatnot, the master of speculation, the Duke of the Sultan of Strategery, the bridge-defying, is currently working on his own epic, oversized hardcover called Dear Whatnot, because he remains the elder statesman of the podcast segment.
How's it going, eh?
Jim, on this episode, we are going to be talking about, of course, Batman Dear Detective and Dark Knights of Steel, Tales of the Three Kingdoms #1. We are sponsored, as always, by DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. Mr. Seglin, what is going on over at DCBService.com?
We have Batman and the Joker, The Deadly Duo, issue #1 at 50% off, only $2.49, and issue 2 at 40% off, only $2.99. Plus, we've got Superman Kal-El Returns, special one-shot at 40%, only $3.59. And last but certainly not least, we have DC Grifter Got Run Over by a Reindeer, one-shot at 40% off, only $5.99. Thank you, DCBS.
Over at InStockTrades.com, they always have the deals of the week, and those are always special discounts. They have the Batman Detective Comics hardcover Volume 3, Arkham Rising. $24.99 regularly, 50% off, only $12.49. Batman 1 Dark Knight hardcover, $29.99 regularly, 50% off, only $14.99. Harley Quinn, 30 Years, The Maid of Mischief, Deluxe Edition hardcover, $49.99 regularly, 50% off, only $24.99. And Joker Presents a Puzzle Box, the hardcover, $39.99 regularly, 50% off, only $19.99. That's an incredible discount, especially if you're a collector of hardcovers and trade paperbacks. It's great to get those 50% off deals. I want to thank DCB Service and InStockTrades.com for continuing to support our show. As you know, we had a spoiler warning contest, and we had some entries that came in late. This one is from Brett Harris, and Brett is going to be joining us sometime in October. We're going to talk about Batman 89, but without further ado, take it away, Brett. What kind of a podcast are we?
G'day, coppers. Captain Boomerang here, hanging out with me mates Sean and Jim, who you know from their Raging Bullets podcast. Gotta tell ya, the boys give you all the thrills, chills, and Sunday spills of all the books they're yarning about. So make sure you've read the books before you listen, or you'll end up as adult as an emu in an antique shop. Now, if you have read the books, crack a tinny and open your ears for some Bonza comic talk. Ha! Cheers!
That was awesome.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Yes!
Let's talk some comic news.
Through the magic alchemy of nature's most awesome sources of energy, Ray Palmer, atomic physicist, becomes the atom.
Jim, we have some cool stuff for Speeding Bullets this week. I want to shout out Scott Jameson, Skajam. Actually, he has a great comic book review out there about DC's Saved by the Bell Reeve #1. Did you get a chance to read that?
I haven't had a chance to read it yet. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm halfway through it. I started reading it. And the way I do handle anthologies now is they wind up being books where I do that. I kind of just read a couple stories here, a couple stories there, and I really enjoy them. They're always so well done now that anthologies have become, it sounds like I'm kind of pushing in the background. I'm not. They're always must read for me. But I'm like reading my regular monthly titles to kind of stay up on their, story. And then after I'm done with that, I'll read a story or two of that because I don't want to jump maybe necessarily into a whole other issue of something. I sometimes don't have the time for that, but I have enough time that like a short story's perfect. They really are so good now. Anthologies are anthologies like a must-have for you now, or are they just kind of, where do they fall in your reading? Because I've really now gotten to the point where I've got to have these when they come out.
I'll be honest, I like a good anthology story, and so I will pick them up. But I think you're more excited about anthologies than I am. And for me, it really is, what is the content? What are we dealing with? What's, that gets my excitement going. And also, who are creative behind them?
Yeah.
If I see, some people that I really love are doing this, I'm like, oh, heck yeah. Or if it's a subject or some type of, like you say, if you tell me, hey, there's going to be an anthology book on the Green Lantern Corps, I'm like, woohoo! I'm all there. I'm all in on that one. Because I think the core would be perfect for an anthology book with multiple stories and whatnot. You tell me we're going to do an anthology book on I can't think of someone that I can't think of any anthology book about the discoverers of the unknown or something. I'm like,
Challengers of the unknown.
Challengers of the unknown. Thank you. I couldn't think of their names. That's why I wouldn't be as excited for that book.
Well, see, you're actually nailing something that I love about anthologies, though. And you're right. Maybe we're a little bit different on this, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's, for me, what I love about the anthologies is the experimental nature of them. So when you were saying I'd love a Green Lantern anthology, I'm nodding yes, yes, yes. But when you throw out Challengers of the Unknown and some of the lesser known characters of DC, I think anthologies are perfect spots for them, because what you can have is top tier characters that are your draw, that are, like the leads of that one. And then you can have some experimental storytelling with characters like that they can't carry their own book, or if they can, it's usually you're going to get like 12 issues, and these are characters that like you'll love the book, and you'll just know that I'm going to get about a year out of this, maybe 6 months, and then that'll be it, and that's okay. It's at least we got that, because I love that experimental portion of it. In anthologies, to your point about creative, you will get your top tier creators. When I say top tier, what I mean by that is the ones that are well known to the DC audience. They're the ones that have been carrying monthly books regularly. They're usually involved in big events, big titles like Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Flash, things like that, where they're just well known creators because they're on well known books. The thing that was great about anthologies is a chance to get to know sometimes creators that are independent, that have not had a chance to write stories yet for DC. We get to see them dip their toe in. We get to see creators who maybe are traditionally known for doing a book like Batman, for example, do Superman or do Aquaman or do, characters like that you don't normally get to see them get to do. I am learning to appreciate that more and more. These aren't throwaway titles. These are experimental titles. And the stories are usually unique and very different to what I'm getting out of a monthly book. That's the draw for me, is the different part. It's not a shorter version of what I can get on another regular monthly title. It's the kind of stories that just would not work in a monthly book. But yet, they're special, they're different, they're unique. I've grown to really appreciate them. So they are must-reads for me for every reason I just stated.
And I get that. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of times with me and the anthology, when you start talking about a book, that gets me more excited on it. Oh, let me give this a read through. So, I do enjoy, because I guess for what you said, how you can get a bunch of the lesser known characters, bring them together, and you can get a good solid story out of it. I am a fan of the concept and the thing. It's just, again, what I get excited about is a little different than yours. But I agree with you, and I enjoy why they're around. So, with this book, I'll support it. I'll be honest, I'll pick it up. But the question for me is, how am I going to pick it up? Because sometimes if I think if we're going to talk about it on the show, then I'll pick it up digitally and that'll be it. Mm-hmm. If we're not going to talk about something about the show, I may wait until the trade comes out, and then I may pick up the trade digitally, or I may pick up the trade physically. And it'll all depend on when it comes out, or I may wait till it goes to the DC app and read it that way.
You mean stories in general, though, not anthologies, right? Because anthologies aren't typically collected in a trade.
Right.
You're making an interesting point, though. I think we all have the economics of time. We have the economics of, financial commitment to, comics. And there's certainly a growing financial commitment to comics. I think one of the things is because we're all different readers and what we want to do with our time. For me, I really am finding where they fit in is after I've read an issue. So that's kind of, I think part of the fun of the conversation is talking through how do you actually approach an anthology? What does it look like for you? To your point, it's just very different for the two of us, and that's okay. I think that there's readers listening to this that identify to one or both of us or some hybrid, and that's fun. Or people maybe who haven't approached anthologies in a while. I like this picture. We've got the one from, it's JLA number 270, chapter 3. And it's Batman and Superman playing an X-Men game.
Yes.
Or JL8 number 270, which was, that's really great.
I love that Clark wants to teleport. He's like, Clark, you can fly, but it's not the same. Teleport, bam, you're right there.
The artwork on that is so good. Like, I love the artwork on the younger Batman and the younger Superman playing it's such a geek out cross. Here's the thing, the DC and Marvel crossovers we've gotten over the years are so rare that when anybody plays around with mashups like this, it brings a smile to my face.
Yes.
I want Batman Spawn so bad. Like, the more I'm seeing of this, the more I want it. When Spawn first released, I was such a big I say that in the past tense. I don't mean it in the past tense. I was a big Todd McFarlane fan. I was reading his work on Spider-Man. I remembered him from his DC days. He was an artist who I just really, really loved. I got very into Spawn in the beginning. I dropped off of Spawn at a certain point in time because of economics. It was a money thing, totally money. I didn't have the budget to be able to afford all the books that I was getting at the time, so I had to pare back, and Spawn was one of the books that I had to pare back. I've dabbled into the character multiple times throughout the years because I really find the character fun and engaging. Well, fun. It's a dark character, but I really enjoy the book, I should say. The team-ups that have been done with Batman and Spawn in the past have always been a treat. I'm glad we're going here again. And it's Todd McFarlane and Greg Capullo doing this. I mean, this
Come on. Done. Enough said.
Yeah, I mean, please, give me more. I am so in on this one.
Yeah, it's funny. Me and Spawn have an interesting relationship because Spawn is one of the characters that I picked up the book solely on the look. Normally, I'm not. Normally, I'm more about the story, what the character's about, but for me, the artwork of Spawn is what got me going. What is this? Because I remember it. When I first, when issue 1 came out, I was like, wow, this looks kind of neat. What is this? And that's what got me into Spawn. And again, it's one of those rare ones where the artwork really is what kept me going for a while. And like you, I had to drop it because of money. But, one of the things that kept going for me was, just the artwork. And again, there were some neat stories with it. So I'm not saying the stories aren't good, but this is what, because I'm normally the story guy versus the art guy.
Yeah.
Where, and this was one of those characters where it was a flip flop, where it was really the artwork that kept me going and kept me reading more and more of Spawn.
It was a great story, though, too. I like the story of Spawn.
100% great story. Love the story. But there was something about the artwork that really just said, I really like the look of this book. And this, back when it was out, I was reading comics completely differently. Mm-hmm. Artwork was actually secondhand to the actual story. And I was like, when I read a comic, I would focus more on the words and the things and all the thought balloons, all that stuff versus the artwork. The artwork was just there. Spawn was the opposite. I was looking at the artwork and then reading the stuff that was being said. So I was doing more of an art read. What I currently do, my art read-throughs, I was doing that with Spawn, versus how I was 100% reading back then. So, that's what, with me and Spawn, have an interesting relationship. So then, I see this Todd McFarlane and Greg Capullo. I'm like, okay, yeah, 100%, I'm all in on this one. Let's see what we get. That
was an important era in comics for me, too, because books like Spawn were books that were helping me to look beyond DC and Marvel. And that's none of that was an indictment on those two companies. It was more, it opened up the doorway to me that there's just a lot of real quality product out there across comics, and it's very easy to make your own pull list. As I've gotten older, I've gotten a lot more comfortable with the fact that not everybody has to like everything I like, which it's a funny evolution. If you listen back to early episodes of this show, I'm kind of like baffled when people don't. Whereas now it's kind of like, no, it's okay that people like different things, and that's fine. And maybe you don't necessarily like everything I do, but growing up, it was this really cool era of, all of a sudden, there's other companies out there, and they're putting out other product. And there's the types of stories that DC and Marvel wouldn't publish, or the types of characters that were fresh and new and different, and they were just adding and rounding off my experience. And it became a very important part of my comic book reading. I really think what was happening then when you had Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane, people like that who were branching off into Image and doing this kind of stuff, it was my dipping the toe into really independent comics. Really cool stuff. I mean, Image now has grown into a juggernaut, and they were a big factor of that. So much of what I enjoy now are comics that just as much are comics that are not published by DC and Marvel. I love looking through what comes out every week and seeing like what did I miss that I didn't pre-order that just came out that looks really interesting. And that's fun still for me. I look forward to every week looking to see what comics are out there that I may have missed. And it's easy to miss comics nowadays because there's so much product out there. That's something, if there's one thing I'm passionate about on this show talking about, is how we need to protect this industry as readers and shout out what we love, whatever that is, because of the fact that that choice, that ability to look across a list, even if you're like, I like about 25% of what's here, that's okay. But at least that 25% that you like is there for you, you know? And that's something that only comes because of the depth of choice that we have right now. And we are so lucky with the amount of product we're getting right now. We really need to support this industry by just getting the word out about the things that we're digging. Dark Crisis Big Bang has Wade, Jurgens, and more mapping out a new DC multiverse. This I am stoked for because clearly Dark Crisis is going to bring some changes to it. Yes. And I can't wait to see what's brought back, what's new, what's being ironed out that we didn't know about. This kind of stuff is exciting. I want this book. Jeremy, pumps back on. I hope this works out, and I'm with him. It sounds really like something that if it's executed well, and the talent that's on it has me have a lot of faith in this, this could be a really cool look at a new multiverse. And I love when they play around with this.
100%. I love this. And again, one of the things that I'm really loving about Dark Crisis is they're giving us the ending. They flat out have told us that Dark Multiverse is coming back. It's going to be, all this change is going to happen, but we still don't know the how. We still don't know all the fine details as to what this is going to mean. So it's kind of neat when you can lay out the ending of a story and then still make something gripping and something that you're like, oh my God, I must read this. I always throw back to Death of Superman. At the beginning of the Death of Superman story, we told you the ending. Superman was going to die. We flat out said that. And then it just adds the build to his actual death. And then even at the moment of his death still is something that just, I still can remember it. I still just that moment of seeing Lois holding Clark's dead body is still just this vivid image. And then the aftermath and everything that happened afterwards, what made, to me, makes it such an epic story. Yeah. Dark Crisis has that same kind of feel for me right now. Mm-hmm. Especially, when I see stuff about, there's going to be even more stuff coming out after Dark Crisis is over. We got to see where, we're going to get fleshed out map of the multiverse. We're going to get fleshed out stories of how the Trinity is affected by it and how the people around the Trinity are affected and how just the everyday person is affected by it. I absolutely loved how they're playing Dark Crisis. I really, my enjoyment of this event is just every week it keeps rising and rising just because of all this other stuff that's coming. I'm very happy with what I'm seeing, what I'm thinking is going to go on, and then you start throwing names like Wade and Jurgens on. I'm like, okay, yes, okay, they're putting the heavy hitters on this. They're taking their A team and they're putting their A team on this story, and I absolutely love the fact that we're getting these people who've crafted these amazing stories that I've loved are on top of all of this stuff. And again, it's one of those things, all the creators involved with this have been people that I'm like, this is somebody I absolutely love reading. Thank you. This is an actual epic event. It's not like they're throwing, hey, let's have that kid Waylon write a story. No, we're going with the people who know what they're doing.
It's one of the things that's interesting about Dark Crisis experience for me is going into it. When I'm thinking about the build going into it, I kept focusing on it being a miniseries, and I was excited for it, but it didn't have, I guess in my mind, I wasn't thinking like Crisis on Infinite Earths level. I wasn't thinking that big. I was thinking that this was going to be an event. I was thinking I was really stoked for an event. I was excited for it. It was coming at the right time where that was something that I needed. This, on a scope and scale, to your point about it building, it feels huge now. And I did not walk into it feeling like this was huge. So that's where it's really different. And I actually love the fact, because it's hard nowadays to have a journey that feels like it grows that way, because we know so much ahead of time. This, for whatever reason, the way that they've delivered it, the way that the support pieces have come out for it, you're nailing this. I totally feel like this thing has just grown every month where I'm like, wow, this is just getting bigger and bigger. And then my anticipation for where it's going to go. I have an idea of where the ending's going to go now that's kind of hard to not like go, okay, it was probably going to end like this. But that doesn't matter. It's more of the journey of getting there that is the part that is the mystery. And I'm captivated by this journey right now. And I was not feeling that at the beginning. That doesn't mean that it was a letdown in the beginning. I just was walking in anticipating a really good event. It exceeded that expectation on a level that I couldn't have foreseen. Batman the Audio Adventures, we talked about this last episode, it's getting a season 2. And I'm going to urge people again, if you don't have HBO Max, this is available on any pod player out there now. You do a search for Batman the Audio Adventures, all 10 episodes of that's available. I encourage you to listen to it. It is a great cast. It has a great overarching story that's going on through all 10 episodes. And I will say, for the first 2 or 3, you might have trouble seeing that this is an ongoing story. But there's not a thing that they're doing that doesn't help pay off at the end. Enjoy this one. It's a really good story, and it's one that you have to listen to all 10 episodes. There is humor littered throughout, and it's like a bright, real good balance of like great storytelling, drama, humor. It's hard to describe it because on paper it doesn't sound like what I'd want from Batman. And it is what I want from Batman in this medium. It was really, really well done. It's a love letter to old radio as well, which works really well. It is just everything that I really, really like about playing around with a different form of media to deliver storytelling.
I started listening to it, and I tried to listen to it while working.
Can't.
And it pulled me in. So I stopped listening to episode 1, and I'm like, I've got to find time when I'm not working to listen to this, because it absolutely completely, as I'm listening to it, I just stopped working and I'm just staring at my computer. There's nothing, it just like, but it just pulled me in. I'm like, okay, yeah, I can't listen to this while I'm working because I won't work.
But I'm glad you listened to it because Isn't it great? Oh
my God, yes. I 100% this is something that if you're like, I don't know, give the first episode a try. I'll tell you, it pulled me in. Before the end of the first episode, I was already pulled in, and now I'm trying to find time when I can actually listen to, from beginning to end, have it sit down and actually, I'm thinking I'm probably going to start doing after work, as my wind down. After working, I'll listen to an episode as a wind down. I think is how I'm going to go with it.
Isn't it hard to describe what it is, though?
Yes, 100%. Again, yeah. I know. I'm trying to come up with a good description for you guys, and I'll tell you right now, just give it a listen. Just give it a listen, and you will know right away whether it's for you or not. It's especially funny. You can find it now out there. If you don't have HBO Max or any of that stuff.
I will say this: I love HBO Max. I love having it. I actually prefer listening to podcasts on podcast players, so I listen to it. My complete listen through was when it was available for free. I will say I'm so into it now that when it comes back on HBO Max, I will be using, because you can listen to HBO Max on your phone and stuff like that. Yeah. So I'm going to listen to it when it's released on HBO Max. So yay, kudos to that. But I will say it works much better on a podcast player. Although I'm glad HBO Max is experimenting with this kind of stuff, and I think as it evolves, hopefully they'll come up with better ways. You can download it on HBO Max too. So for those of you that have phones and things like that where you're like, I don't want to be using my cellular minutes for this, you can download all of the episodes to your phone on HBO Max. So that's a thing just to keep in mind on your portable devices. It's a good way to be able to listen to it. James posted a cool link. It's to this. It's a trailer for the Batgirl movie, but what they've put in there is all of the build up to the cancellation of it, like the reaction to the cancellation of it, and it's great. Because what I love is the reactions, especially with the dollar amount that they killed this thing. I don't get how you put this much money in and you kill it. I went and saw this week Clerks 3. And it was a Fathom event, right? One of the paid events.
Yeah.
And it was it was a great experience because what they had is Kevin Smith introducing it, and then afterwards, as part of the Fathom event, they had a little featurette where it was Kevin Smith and all the principal people involved just talking about the Clerks experience and that movie. It was just a great way to see that film. Where I'm relating it back to this, release this doggone thing in whatever state it's in as a Fathom event. I will go pay to see it. If you're not going to do a wide release, you have this. You have it. Just put it out. Like, make me pay more. Because here's the thing, Clerks 3, I paid more for Clerks 3 than I would for a traditional film to go see it because it was a Fathom event. It was worth Clerks, by the way. Anybody that's a Clerks fan out there, Clerks 3 was amazing. I laughed all the way through it. But the thing I loved about that is I felt like I was paying for and being a part of a special fan experience, and that's what I got. Give me that with this. I will pay for this. I will pay a premium ticket price to go see this. So, and I'm not alone. I mean, there are enough people out there, a lot of people listening to this that would say the same thing. There's people also listening to this that maybe don't care. It's okay. It's one of those films like that, right? I want to see this. It's done at least in some state. Give me it in that state. And be honest that, like, okay, we didn't finish off the special effects. We didn't finish off this. I'll see it that way. I want to see it. And I will pay you to let me see it. Please. I don't get this. I don't get why they aren't at least doing something with this. It's a lot of money to spend and not try to recoup something from it. That's crazy.
Yeah, I don't understand anything going on with Batgirl. Because again, as when we talked about it last time, the conspiracy theorist in me was going haywire over it, and I just think it was just an executive, for whatever reason, said no. And I don't know what that no was. It can't be, the movie can't be that bad that they're like, there's something else behind the scenes that's killing this movie, and I don't know what it is. And that's what I would love to know. Yeah,
I love seeing stuff like this. And it really is something at that point you got to put it out for the fans, right? The ones that, because if you're really not going to do anything with it, why would you not at least release it in some form? There's an article that Jared posted, and I love these, and I'm going to point people to our Facebook group for this. It's denofgeek.com. They have an article on the ongoing legacy of Milestone Media, and I think it's great that we're seeing so much, because there's a documentary on HBO Max about Milestone. There's articles like this that are out there. I'm glad to see so much being done revolving around Milestone, because I've become such a fan. We talked about Fandom. Fandom really jazzed me for Milestone and got me going for it, which is why I'm sad that we don't have an event this year, because I think events like that are important to promote things like this that you'd otherwise miss. And boy, is Milestone just a stellar group of creators that have gotten together to develop some really high-quality content. And I love the characters, I love the stories, I love how different they feel. So I'm glad to see that we have this article there. There's also an article on there about DC shedding light at the end of Dark Crisis number 7. I'm not going to say too much spoilery about that, because there may be people listening to this that don't want any spoilery stuff about Dark Crisis. But obviously we know Dark Crisis is going to come to an end, and I think that's the intriguing thing right now, is we're getting to that point where it's got to be looking at, well, what comes afterwards? Where does it go from here? There's an article focusing on that, which is really cool. Paramount Plus reportedly wants to shutter Showtime to bolster Paramount Plus. Or Paramount, I should say, as a company wants to do that. I'm not surprised by this, because we're seeing these mergers going on all over the place with Discovery and what's going on with that, and Warner, and we're hearing a lot more about these mergers, because I think what's happening is the amount of streaming platforms out there, what keeps them going is content, and diverse and rich content. And it's becoming a big pressure cooker that every few months you've got to be hearing more new content. That's what pulls people to streaming services. It's same things with TV, though, right? I mean, it's, TV in general. You are tuning in every week for new content. So this doesn't surprise me. I think it's going to be an interesting thing as far as where this ends up going for Paramount, and if it's successful. Showtime certainly has name brand, high-quality TV content. It strangely gets overshadowed by HBO in the sense that I think it's often forgotten how good Showtime's television shows are, and how they they actually, I feel, match the quality of what we expect from HBO original programming. I like this witch superhero who, when you're a lonely dark man on a path of revenge, and you meet an orphan. Yeah. I love this one. This is because we got The Witcher, we've got Batman, we've got The Mandalorian, and you know what the beauty of this is right now? These characters you're able to see these characters in live action now. Every single one of them. That is more what I'm geeking out of as I'm looking at this is, yes, it's a geek meme, meaning for, it's for our crowd, but these characters are all becoming mass market characters now. And they weren't before, even just a few years ago. So, especially like The Witcher. The Witcher now is, I know so many people that know about The Witcher that, aren't gamers or they didn't read the books, and it's so cool to see this. So, which one are you?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, I'm more of Witcher. I think I'd fit more into that role.
Boy. Yeah, I don't know which one I would. Here's the thing. I hope I could be one of them. I would always go with Batman. I would always go with Batman. I would want to be Batman. But this is really cool. This is funny. It's a good meme. Especially with the fact that part of what I love about those characters are the orphans that wind up with them. It's really cool. So let's see. This is an interesting one. So there was People's Joker. It's a queer movie set in the Batman universe. Was pulled from TIFF over rights issues. And I didn't know about this, so I'm glad Jared posted this. It's interesting what's, like, I guess, what is considered parody and what are copyright. I get this is murky waters when you create something like this and you put it out there. I'm a big fan of art. I'm a big fan of, artists playing around with mediums and things like that. But these are characters that are owned by a larger company. And there's always that issue of, what are you allowed to do? What are you not allowed to do? The reason why this is topical, I work in education, right? And we run into copyright issues all the time. As far as what can you legally borrow from other districts? What can you legally borrow from the internet? What can you legally borrow from other media forms to use in classrooms? And, what are your legal obligations as far as where does payment need to take place? Where does it not? Where is use acceptable? When is it not? So it's very hard to navigate that. And I'm saying that just as somebody who works in education that has had to, we've gotten cease and desists for images that we posted on our website for instructional purposes. So, and respect, pulling those were the right thing to do because we were in violation. So when I look at this, I connect with it in a strange way because of the fact that we've had to pull stuff before. So I'm all for artist rights, and I'm all for. I love parody, and I love playing with art forms. I'm hoping that whatever is pulling this down, they find a way to work that out, so that way they're able to present this. Because I get, I like the artistic exploration, and getting DC characters out there in any capacity increases awareness. I think it's good. So. I just hope they work this out. I get the murky waters of this though. And I'm not presenting it well because of the fact that it really is that difficult to navigate in just the education realm. Because there was a time when teachers, and I admit there was a time where I was one of them going back into the early days of my career when I was a lot more naive about this kind of thing. I thought, well, I'm a teacher. If I'm using it for education, I can just use anything, right? No, that's not the case at all. Things have usage, acceptable use, and they have rights issues, and there's certain things that you have to pay for. There's certain things you're not allowed to display publicly. Even streaming media is one of those things. A lot of your streaming media services have very different rules on public presentation of their media services, including some of them have very specific rules about educational use, where you have to buy specific licenses to be able to use them for education. So this is very topical and very true, and it's not as cut and dry as, well, DC, Warner, just let them go use it. You can't. Here's the problem. I see both sides of it. I want this out and for people to be able to see, whoever wants to see it. I also see the company standpoint, but if do that, we open the doorway to then anybody. Where do you stop it? And I hope what comes out of this is an easier vehicle for artists like this who are creating something unique and different that they want to present, to have a way to legally be able to do that when it's parody. So that way they're able to do the things that they want to do. I don't know. It's an interesting sort of piece. The Titans return in November, and they're bringing Lex Luthor.
Yes.
I love this show, and I think it's gotten better as it's gone along, where I understand what the show is and what they're trying to do. So that's something that I'm really, really glad to see more of the Titans, especially in the news of all the
100%.
In the news of all the HBO Max cancellations. It's like, yes, we're getting more Titans. So I'm hoping that it's one of those shows that continues to survive, because I think what works for Titans for me is the evolution.
And big time. I'll tell you, this, when you said the shows keeps getting better, 100% agree with you on that. It's, this is something that, when remember when we first talked about the first season, the first couple episodes, like, as the show's growing, as these characters are developing, as it's, it's like either the actors or the writers or whoever is getting more comfortable with the characters, and they're giving us a little bit more depth on who they are and whatnot. So this is 100% a show that I was excited to see coming back. Then you add the words Lex Luthor. I'm like, okay, now we're really, now I really am, 100%, behind this thing. So I'm very excited for this. So yay.
DC's honoring Stan Lee with Tales from Earth-6, a celebration of Stan Lee. And it looks like it's all of the characters that Stan Lee created when he did his DC Universe run, where it was his imagining. Just imagine Stan Lee creating the characters of DC Universe. Did you read any of those?
Yes, I did.
Weren't they good?
Yeah, I liked them. That was, and I'm trying to remember, did I read them when they came out, or did I read them afterwards? I can't remember when I read them, but I definitely liked them. I thought that was kind of a neat little, again, it was interesting, his take on some of the characters. Uh-huh. I was expecting more. For some of them, I was kind of expecting more of a dramatic change, and some of them really had some of the core of who they are. Yeah. So it was kind of neat. I liked the fact that the core of the character was still kind of there, but it was some changing and some tweaking and whatnot.
Yeah, I actually liked where he made significant changes. I liked the other areas where it was important for him to stick to like the core. It was interesting to see his sensibilities, and I think that was the part I think that surprised me the most. But I also think that's why I thought they were good, was because of the fact that he made really judicious choices based on what he really felt was best for the character concept, based on his sensibilities. And I think versus if you're forced to say, we have to make a drastic change here just because it's you doing it, I don't think that works. Just make good stories based on the character concepts, and so I would love to see more with these characters and see what other creators do with them, because that's always fun. So I think this is cool that they're doing it, especially in light of the fact that I'm all multiverse happy right now with everything that's going on. So it's a great time to release this. We got another shot from JL8, which is, I should reference, is by Yale Stewart. And I'm so glad this is being posted, because I'm not familiar with JL8, and boy, I'm going to be after this. So he has a Patreon, and this is something that he does regularly. And it's this cool parody site that he put together. When parody, I want to be very careful when I say that. It's his own take on mashups of DC and Marvel characters, and I think the artwork is fantastic on this. I really have got to get into this. Yeah, thanks for posting this. If you haven't seen this, it's on the website, and it's out, I should say, in the Facebook group. And you will see a link to this. And Jocks, thank you for posting this, because I'm not aware of this. So it's JL, the number 8, by Yale Stewart. And this is from number 270 of it. So it is a younger Batman and a younger Superman playing an X-Men video game. It's really cool to see the two of them debating this X-Men video game that they're playing. It just is really cool. Am I right? Isn't this artwork fantastic?
Oh God, yeah. Not in my head as you're talking, dude. It is that I want to say fun art style, but that always people will take it like as a knockdown on it, and I'm not. It's not your traditional comic book style. It's kind of like how the Tiny Titans had that going. That their different art style a little bit to it. I classify these as the fun art style. And it's, for me, it's an absolutely brilliant and beautiful artwork, but it has just a different look to it so that I don't think this is going on in the current continuity, but it's still really good.
Except the video game.
All age appropriate art style. It's kind of like the style to it,
The video game, though, is like more of a traditional style.
Right.
And I love the balance of the two. I'm not disputing anything you're saying. It's more of, it's this cool, like this should be, like somebody should be looking at this and making this into an animated series.
Yes, 100%.
I would watch this. And I certainly want to go and read this afterwards. It's incredibly engaging. I don't know how I've missed this. So this is way cool. And that's one of the things I love about our Facebook group. People that are there, they find things and they post them that are things that I haven't seen before. Dead Boy Detectives are being added to the Sandman universe, and I'm glad to see they're increasing and growing the Sandman universe. And I'm so glad to see more of this coming out because I'm a big fan of the Dead Boy Detectives, and DC embracing and bringing out some of their creative stories again is. It's funny, we're talking about the things that we're losing, that were cancellations and announcements. I'm glad that in that we're also getting announcements like this and Danger Street.
Yes.
From Tom King and Jorge Fornes. 12-issue Black Label series. Anytime Tom King does a 12-issue series, it seems to just be a home run. Yep. I am so in on this. And there's a trailer on our Facebook group. Thank you, Jared, for posting that. But, boy, from DC and Marvel, his 12-issue miniseries, his maxi series that he's done have all been just outstanding. It's kind of like you have me at Tom King doing it. Let's just go and make this now.
Exactly. Tom King does the phone book. Yes, I'm in.
Yeah. Warner Brothers Discovery, they have got to do something to get in front of the media representation of them right now. Because whether it's right or wrong, it just seems like every time there's a new post about Warner Brothers Discovery, it's problems, like turmoil. Things aren't working out. I get very, very worried about that because of the fact that in this landscape media right now, what people should be talking about more is your quality programming, right? Yep. That's what should be drawing you in, the quality things that you're doing. And it's more how they can't get it together seems to be the ongoing theme. They need to get somebody in PR really getting in front of this. And I think if there's one piece I would say that they're doing wrong, it's they are not driving the media. They got nobody doing that. And I think they really need to right now get some organization together, get somebody driving the media. They need to be releasing regular announcements on forward movement of the company. And maybe focus a lot less on everything being about this is canceled, that is canceled. How about we're going to be working on this? We are working on that, and these things are going to come to fruition. We have this creative on that. Even if it's a smaller list right now, focus more on the things that are coming to fruition and why we should be excited about those things. Because it's real weird messaging right now. I don't know of any company right now, like Netflix has had some negative press over the fact that their financial issues with, they don't have as many subscribers as they had, and things like Bone got canceled and stuff like that. But in the midst of those announcements, there's like 20 other great things that are out there. I'm upset about the Bone cancellation because I wanted to see Bone on Netflix. But here's the thing. Am I like feeling like Netflix is falling apart because of that? No, I just got done watching Sandman. I mean, I'm pretty high on Netflix right now, in spite of all that. Warner Brothers needs to take a good hard look at Netflix and how they're surviving that kind of thing by making sure that they have a balance.
See, this is why you should be the head of the DC Studios. I'm putting your name in for the running.
No.
Oh, yeah. No. I think it should be you.
No.
Let's get a campaign going. Everybody listening starts throwing out a campaign.
There's a reason why this is a fan podcast. And I really want to remain a fan. Because I do think there's a problem when you become. I never want to become so insider that I lose the fan aspect of it. I know you're joking. I'm not going there, but it's an interesting sort of thing. I really, you figure over 17 years we've been a fan podcast and kind of deliberately stayed that way. I find that when we prepare for this show, I prepare for this show as a fan. I'm excited to talk about this stuff. Everything we're talking about now, it's fun to talk about as a fan because we're not tied to any of it. We're just geeking out over what we hope this is going to be. Apama 12 came out, and
yes.
I definitely want to shout that out because it's harder to, I should say it's harder to get it digitally from like Comixology and stuff, but you can certainly get it from HeroTomorrowComics.com. I've got the physical issues. I got the cover bouquet that they always do with these. Boy, those covers are outstanding. Apama is just a great series and one that I just highly recommend. Again, as a fan.
Yes.
Wow. So we got a couple. Constantine and Madame Xanadu were shows. I forgot that Madame Xanadu was going to be a show, and they're not going to be moving forward to. J.J. Abrams was doing Constantine.
I know.
And like. Ew.
I don't know how that died.
I don't get this.
Again, I don't understand what's going on the, with the executives and the office and the suits behind this. Because J.J. Abrams, Constantine, 100%, that sounded outstanding. Madame Xanadu, I'll be honest with you, I'm limited reading on her, but every single time I've read her, I'm like, this is an awesome series. She is an awesome character. Every single time. You want to have a solid female, really cool character. She's one that you can go with. I don't understand why these two series are not are officially dead now.
So they're going to do now. Here's strange news. So they're canceling the J.J. Abrams Constantine show, but they're doing a sequel to the Keanu Reeves movie. Now wait, I want to be clear off of that. I liked the Keanu Reeves movie, but it is not authentic John Constantine.
Right.
I liked the movie, though, so the idea of a sequel, I do want to be clear. I will see the sequel. I will enjoy if the sequel is of the same quality of the first film, I'll enjoy it because I really enjoyed the first movie. But I want that, and I want that TV show because I know the TV show would be more closer to a traditional interpretation of Constantine. I want both. Actually, because Keanu Reeves' Constantine in some ways plays around with Constantine the way that the Joker movie played around with the concept of the Joker, right? And I like that. I'm good with that. So, but to Jared's point, I didn't see this one coming at all. Like, really? We're going to go with that. So we're canceling things that are like less. There's a lot of things that I feel that they're canceling that are less of a risk. I feel like this is more of a risk unless you're looking at the fact that maybe Keanu Reeves is not the risk. And I would agree. Yeah. Keanu Reeves is a draw. And I liked him a great deal in the first one. So as a sequel, I'm in on the sequel. That's cool.
Again, funny story with Constantine. When I first saw it, I was like, I didn't really like it that much.
Okay.
But I saw it a while ago. Then I started reading Constantine. And I was like, oh man, I was in that camp of it's different. They should have gone with more of who is Constantine. Would have made it a cool it would have made it, I thought, a better movie. And I was talking to a work friend of mine who absolutely loves Constantine, the movie. Mm-hmm. Never read a single book. Right. And absolutely loved the movie. She's like, oh, this is a great movie. One, she's a huge fan of Keanu Reeves, but also she loved the movie. And I sat down and I watched it again, completely looking at it just as a movie and just as a thing. And I was like, you know what? This is a really cool movie. I could see why people would enjoy this movie not knowing the other Constantine. And it was I had this weird revelation. So when I see the sequel, I'm all in on this because I look at this movie differently than I looked at it when it first came out. I look at it differently than how I would love to see a true Constantine movie or a true Constantine TV show. That follows really follows the original series. But again, this is a play on who the character is, a planet, but there's still some of the core fabric of Constantine. This isn't Dolph Lundgren Punisher. This is he is a Constantine. But it's a little different. And you add Keanu Reeves into the mix, that's going to really strengthen everything up because anything he is in is gold. because that's the kind of actor he is. He's not just going to do something for a paycheck anymore. Yeah. He does something that's a solid story. So if they gave him the script, said, hey, here's what we're doing, and he's like, oh, yeah, I'm all in on this, I'm 100% confident this is going to be a really cool story.
Yeah. I agree. So DC Prime TV, did you see this Teen Titans? Like, oh my gosh, that animated style is sweet. Yeah. Jared makes a great point saying, hey, if we got Snyder's Justice League sequels in an animated style like this, I'd be into it. The problem is animation costs so much to put out there too. But boy, I would love to see, what I'd love to see? Put out like an animated short sequel to the Snyder Justice League stuff with this. I would love to see this. This type of animated style used to bring to life some of the things, and then, maybe as proof of concept, and then do it as one of those DC animated releases. I'd like to see it on the big screen, though. I really would. I love animation on the big screen, especially animation like this. That's epic.
Yes.
I want, this, what they're showing here with Teen Titans. I want to see this on the big screen. This is, boy, great animation, and I really, really love the look of this. That's a nice thing about DC's characters, right? They can, tonally, you can do something really bright and hopeful and things like that. You can do the darker stuff. The characters are very malleable, and they work really well in a variety of environments. And especially the mix of characters sometimes decide how malleable they are. But the Titans themselves, they've had some dark stories over the year. So it's funny how you can look at this and go, well, you can go from Teen Titans Go to this and go, it's all Titans. It really does work.
It cracked me up how they went from Teen Titans artwork then to shifted over to this. I was like, yes, I'm all in.
Yeah, me too.
Look at those strange little beetles. They look great neutrons.
Our first discussion's on Dear Detective, with art, story, cover, and variant covers all by Lee Bermejo. Letter art by Jared Fletcher, editor Paul Kaminsky, and of course Batman was created by Bob Kane with Bill Finger.
This is an interesting one to do on the show because I didn't know what this was going to be. Obviously, Lee Bermejo is one of those creators that when I see Lee Bermejo on anything, I just grab it. This is it. I didn't realize this was going to be a cover collection kind of thing. And with a story, the overarching story that ties it all together. And I love that it was a mystery story where you kind of piece together who actually is writing the letter.
Yeah.
And I love the way that they did that they laid little clues along the way that linked the letters, it was a coded name at the end. It was a neat way that they did this. The artwork on this is absolutely stunning. Every page was I love artists that are able to hand draw, and then I love all kinds of art. So I want to be very clear. It's not one kind of artist that I like, but I'm always amazed when you get these ones that are, this is like a photograph when he's taking off. I'm looking at the page right now where he's taking off the cowl. And you just see the eyes and you see the face and the detail and how it looks photographic, but not. It's got an art spin to it. Because you can say the same thing about the work of Alex Ross, right? But yet his is Lee Bermejo's and Alex Ross's are so distinctly different. And you say that of all my favorite comic artists. I've got so many artists of so many different styles that I really love, but this is stunning, absolutely stunning, page after page.
Lee Bermejo is one of those people that I have to thank you for, because all the times you've gushed over this guy, even not books we've read, just you're talking about his art style. And anytime his name is brought up, you just gush over him. He is a name. That's why I know that name. Mm-hmm. And again, he's also on my list of artists that if I see his name attached to something, I'm going to pick it up just because of this appreciation of his art style. Like the variant cover that has him standing on kind of squatting on that firing stoop with Dear Detective and neon lights next to him. I absolutely love that cover. The main cover is cool. Yep. I'm not knocking anything on that, but that variant cover to me really is something that I was like, this is a poster right here. I would love to have this full size on my wall.
Every page is a poster.
Oh yeah, every page is a poster.
And wait, that's building off of what you're saying, not disputing what you're saying. Yeah. I'm nodding and agree with everything you're saying about the variant cover. Yes, I actually like the variant cover more myself. So I'm like, yeah, Jim's right. Jim's onto something here. But then when you were saying about the poster piece. I'm like, this is a poster book. I mean,
Yeah.
make no mistake about it. Every page is a poster.
I so want this oversized. I so want them to do this absolute and give me a nice big tome on this, and I would gladly drop money for this without even a second hesitation.
They're releasing these artist gallery versions now, which are like bigger than absolutes. You know, there's I forget what company's doing them. I have a couple of them, and they're oversized versions of certain books that are out there, and you know, classics. Oh my gosh, is the artwork stunning in those, and they're bigger than the absolutes. It's like I want one that like I need 4 people to get it in my room, and I need people to help me turn the pages.
Yes, that's what I want to. Yep.
Hey, can you come over? I want to read Dear Detective. That's what I want. Can we make that happen? Because that would be, then I would be satisfied. Where it's then we're hanging out with life-size Batman.
Yes.
So what do you think of the old? Yeah.
If they did that, I would come over and help you with reading the book because I would read along with you.
I would do the same with you.
Yeah.
I would make that. It's like it wouldn't be a sacrifice. It would be like an event, right?
Yeah. And we would both, because we're idiots, we would both buy our own individual copy of it and do that where one weekend, like,
yes.
Hey, you want to feel like coming over? Feel like really reading Dear Detective.
Now, can you help me with my art read through?
Yeah.
That'd be great. We go get lunch and then we read it a third time.
Yeah.
It would be an event. What did you think of the overarching story, the letter? I liked the letter format. It was a different sort of way to kind of link together these pictures. And they really did a great job with... I felt like even though these were pictures that maybe they were themed and put together in such a way that there was a story that was being told here through these images, I felt like almost like the enemy was watching him.
Yeah.
And when you know that the enemy's a concept, it was even cooler.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I love how this played out. You know, again, I don't want every story to be like this, but when you get an event like this, when you get a tale like this, when you get a creator, again, this is our story, everything by one man. Now, they have Jared Fletcher doing the lettering, which, again, I really do like his letter work. So he's a letterer whose name I recognize constantly on stuff like this and I liked how they said letter art by Jared Fletcher. It wasn't just the lettering there is an artwork to this lettering and to the usage of it. It's kind of like those really cool books when they use the non-traditional panels and they do background on the panels to try to add to the story. The lettering in this also is its own form of artwork in this story. So it's giving us something to read, it's giving us some context, but it's also continuing on, adding on into the artwork of it. So for me, as a concept of a story, this was absolutely brilliant. I would love another one of these. I would love a Dear Superman, different. Obviously, it would tell a different story, right. But, Dear Wonder Woman, a whole kind of like series on these where they do something like this. With where it would be more focused on whichever that hero was, whichever hero they were doing, and it would be again. I think you put the right people on it, they could do something and craft something just as awesome as this one. But again, it's got to be the correct person doing the job, and that's why I think this artwork, this story, everything's so fit perfectly Batman. Perfectly fit Gotham, perfectly fit his rogues, that I was like, this right here is just, again, one of those epic stories that I'm going to own in multiple formats, and sit back and read. And I'd like to get a format eventually that I can maybe one day have him sign. This is something I'd love to frame, put on the wall. And there's so many things.
Listen, dude, Jim. I'm looking at this and I'm like, it's that giant format we were talking about. You need like 3 people to get it signed.
Yes, well.
You get in line and you're like, where the heck did you get this giant book and what is it? Listen, I had somebody custom make Dear Detective into this giant life-size format. I need to have Lee Bermejo sign each page.
Yes.
It's interesting. As I'm looking over this story, like I want to take a look at one of these pages. Let's just talk about like the tone. Strange. Our lives have been connected for so long, but I still seem to elude you. It's as if we shared the same womb. Our mother pain, our father violence. We are both products of fear. And I like the powerless is crossed off. weakness. You want to feel the city's shadows wrap around you. Your light in the sky is a false sun. It only makes those shadows longer. This place will never be yours. You and your pig friends are delusional. I own Gotham. I was thinking partway through, I'm like, is Batman writing this almost to himself? Trying to figure out what his real enemy is, what his real concept is. Is this somebody writing to Batman and about who he is? It's stunning. Yeah. Because, the idea, and let's just jump to it. The enemy writing this is crime.
Yeah.
And what is Batman's real enemy? But it's crime. It's not an individual. It's not the Joker. It's not Penguin. It's not the Riddler. It's something that, can he ever truly stamp out crime? And he will not be satisfied until crime, which took his family from him and has hurt so many, is done in Gotham. So can that mission ever truly be done? Or is it a never-ending battle where you just hope you're moving the needle forward and you continue to move the needle forward? And I loved that this was so conceptual in the way that it was presented. It was such a great way to link these images together thematically that there's passages of this letter that all of a sudden has images afterwards that just continue this sense of story, this sense of almost crime is watching and taunting him. And it was great, really great.
Well, yeah, and again, after that segment, you flip the page, it's him and Gordon. And I was like, oh, that is awesome.
Yep.
I loved how when you get a couple of these where when you read the sentence and you flip the page, oh, yeah. And like you, I wasn't sure who it was originally being written. Because, it's funny, when at first, the opening panel, the opening one, I'm like, okay, it's the Joker. This is from the Joker. It's got to be Joker. And then later on, you're like, no, it's not Joker. Who is it? What's going on? And I loved how it really did go into the end before I realized that it was just a concept. It was crime. It was his true enemy is the fact that, bad things happen to good people and he's sworn to protect them, but will he ever truly be able to defeat his enemy? And I love just that concept, just that notion, because that really is what Batman's about. Take away all the theatrics of the Bat. The criminals are a cowardly and superstitious lot. Take away all the great detective that he is. He is about fighting. It's a one man's battle against evil. It's good versus evil. It is just that nature, and the nature of evil. Can you ever truly defeat it? Can you ever truly stop crime from happening? I don't know. And I love how, this is, giving life to this non-corporeal entity that is Batman's true great enemy.
Inside that bat-shaped hole is the little boy hiding. Scared little boy, never big enough, never strong enough, cries too much. Still don't have a clue, do you? Still lashing out in the dark. I love this. I just so good. And I love that the clues are being scattered as far as the symbols are replacing letters. And it was such a neat way.
Now, one of the things, I don't know about with me and figuring out that it was crime, because at the end there you've got the different symbols replacing, and I'm like, I actually went back through and I'm like, okay, what is that symbol? Okay, that's that. That's it. And I got about 2 letters into it. I'm like, oh, crime. Okay, that is cool.
Yeah, E was the easiest one at first because E featured so prevalently in the me, being replaced in me. So I got the E right away, and then I started, like you, I went back and grabbed the other letters, and it became really apparent that it was crime. I love that through the early parts of the story, I was wondering, is this the Riddler? Is it somebody like that? And is the Riddler too easy? Is it Hush? Is it? Then you start going through and like, wow, this feels like bigger. It feels like somebody else watching him. What is that? In the end, I will admit I didn't know until I started taking care of the letters, but I wasn't surprised, and that's a testament to the letter and to the story that it was a concept. I was like, wow, that is really cool.
Well, and I'll tell you, as I am, because I went through I was going through his known rogues, And as we're seeing the images, as he's talking about, as the letter is talking about the different rogues that he deals with, and I'm like, okay, it's not that person, not because they wouldn't show them if it wasn't them. And then eventually, because I was leaning towards Joker. Joker was obviously my prime choice, just because this has a Joker feel to it. Mm-hmm. Over it, Riddler. I could see Riddler, but for whatever reason, I was thinking more Joker. Then when Joker got eliminated, I'm like, are we, because, Joker gets eliminated, Ra's al Ghul got eliminated. I'm like, who could this be? Then I'm thinking, are we getting a new villain out of this? And I'm like, oh my God. And then I'm thinking, okay, they're using this to introduce a brand new villain. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be awesome. So as I'm reading through it, I'm thinking we're going to get somebody new. And then when you get the revelation, no, it's not somebody new. They've always been there. And I'm like, oh, that is brilliant. Again, I so absolutely love just how throughout this whole thing, I'm thinking, who is it? Who's the villain? Who's this villain? What's going on here? And then, like Batman, I was pulled completely in. Well, you're pulled in and you don't really know until the very end. And I thought that for me was an absolute brilliant way of handling it.
The page with Clayface was really horrific. Where you just see the terror of going up against Clayface. You don't see that very often. You get this idea that it's this malleable mudball that Batman's fighting, but the idea that you almost are in this like quicksand drowning situation, it makes a ton of sense, and I love the way that was portrayed there with Batman like clawing out, fighting against it. I just thought just a stunning and striking image that really added a terror element to what it's like to go up against Clayface that I thought was really cool.
Yeah. Oh, big time. I'll tell you, again, just the artwork on some of these fight sequences with the various rogues throughout this. Again, it's a single panel, but so much action, so much stuff is happening in there that you're imagining off page what is going on. And you're seeing it. Even though it's a single page in the moment, you can actually fill in even the lead up and the ending to it. And I think that for me is something about the power of these sequences. And the other page that I absolutely 100% want as a statue, I want as a, on my wall is when it's, Bruce standing there, the tattered cape, he's got burning Gotham behind him. I'm like, oh man, that for me is a powerful, powerful image because it comes right after when he's holding a dead Robin. So you've got this moment of, again, real, true tragedy. And, of course, that came, the words before that, where he's talking about, like, watching a little birdie, a little dead birdie slowly decompose. It's inevitable. And I'm like, and then you flip like, oh, man, of course, a dead Robin. And then the burning Gotham. I'm like, oh, that is brilliant.
I liked his take on Jason's costume. Doing a different sort of take on Jason, which I thought was really cool. That was very well done. And I liked that was like 3 sequential panels where you had the dead Robin, you had Batman, like kind of dealing with the aftermath, in solace, but then inevitably punching Joker and almost becoming Joker in his rage, but deciding to put him into Arkham. That was a very well put together sequence of images that I thought did some really cool storytelling.
Oh, yeah, and I'll tell you, that's something, noticing how the panels played out was something, because I was so caught up in the fire and the action and all that stuff that I very easily missed the last 2 pages of that, which, again, were very pivotal in that story, where Bruce is sitting there and he's joking. He's about to kill the Joker, and he goes, no, I'm not going to do it. He's going to honor his code, and he's not going to cross the line. I always love seeing that stuff where Bruce takes it to the edge and then but doesn't go over.
There's a sequence here where an isolated image of him arriving at Arkham, and you see the Batmobile and like the dark shadow over his face. I just think that's a striking page. But then the next few pages are really important to the concept of crime, right? The fact that it's not these individuals that he's fighting. It's crime as a whole that he's fighting. And crime's overwhelming because it keeps getting added on and piled on. There's more criminals. There's more people there. And the more that he puts away, the more they can escape. And when they escape and you're dealing with all of them, it gets overwhelming. And you're seeing him against this overwhelming odds. And even the next page where you see the battle damage from him and just how much it's taken a toll on him, but yet he keeps fighting the fight. He's still working to beat down that concept. And I really, really loved that, the yin and the yang of that. It was really, really cool.
And we both are fans of showing Bruce with battle damage.
Yes.
Because he is a mere mortal man. As cool as and awesome as Batman is, he is still just a man. He can't keep doing this forever like Superman and Wonder Woman can. He's got a definite shelf life. And I do love when our teams go through and they show us the scars on his body. Because he's going to have that. He's going to have massively messed up stuff. And eventually, he will not be able to continue on with the mission. It's got to be passed on to the next generation and the next generation. And throughout all of that, crime will always be there. And I love just that final panel of him showing the battle damage, showing the cape behind him, but also showing kind of like a despair on his face. Or, maybe you read it as focus. I don't know. I kind of took that as his because he's unwinding his hands. He's taking off the stuff. He's done for the night, but it's still always going to be there. Next night, he's going to have to do this all over again. There is no end to the battle. And I love just that notion and that concept.
I actually, it's funny that you're asking how you read it. I don't think it's one thing. So I think you're right in what you're saying, but I don't think it's just that. I think it is focus. I think it's a whole bunch of things. I think it's more to build the idea of this. It's overwhelming, right? What he's dealing with. I think you're nailing it as far as how you're reading it. But I love that there is a concept. How do you ever truly get past this? And yet Batman keeps fighting it because he believes he can. He believes he can. And he is a needle changer, right? Gotham is decidedly different since Batman's been on the scene. That's something that I think is... he wouldn't always realize that.
I don't think he'll ever realize it. I don't think he will ever really realize how much good he's done for the city. And that's kind of a part of a tragedy on him in that he has moved the needle. He has made things better.
Right.
But he always will see it as... what is the next threat? He won't see the joy that he's brought.
Well, it'll never be enough, right?
Yeah. And again, that is an issue with a lot of times with law enforcement, with the people who are fighting the fight. You can't always sit back and see the good stuff. You only, and it really is a tragedy on a lot of people who are involved. I'm not talking vigilantes. I'm talking the actual legit law enforcement, the agents, all the federal agents, all that stuff who are dealing with this on the side. You're always looking for the next threat, and sometimes you're able to sit back and you're able to enjoy the moment. But there's always the next threat coming, and you got to be prepared for it. So it's when I was reading, this last panel really did just ring out to me just because of that stuff. And even like you look at the two panels afterwards, because it's the story kind of being told was after the riot in Arkham is taken care of. Bruce is sitting back, and you see him perched, as the sun's coming up. So it's time for him to go back home, back to the cave, take off the cowl, get ready for the next day. And again, couple panels just spread throughout that. You're just looking at it. I was like, that is a really just powerful story. I would love to just see, a story where they just focus on the end of shift for Batman. That would be a neat thing, just to, a one-shot issue where you're just talking about what he goes through at the end of day. Not have the big commotion, but have him at the end of day through the breakdown, through the rest, and then getting ready for the next day.
I get it. Jim wants Good Night, Sweet Prince, and it's just pictures of Batman sleeping. I get it. It's great, yeah.
I would 100% be okay with that. You give me Lee Bermejo art of Batman sleeping, I'm all down.
Yeah.
I'm in with it.
Strangely, I think I would too. The thing I really do like about this, you mentioned it earlier, as far as you don't want every book to be this way. I think what I do want is more experimentation. I think this is experimental storytelling. It was a great way to take advantage of the artwork, to link it together in a very cool story that brought this art together and really produced concepts that made you think. And it was just a very different approach, and I really enjoyed this. And I think it's something that comics is the only medium that can get away with doing something like this, right? Not get away with. It's more of the presentation of this makes sense because of the visuals, because of the unique way that you journey through a comic. You can do this kind of story and read it through multiple times and wrap your head each time around that idea. And it just was super cool. I just really, really enjoyed it. I'm glad we did it because I didn't know what it was going in other than Lee Bermejo. I mean, I was one of those I wanted to talk about because it was Lee Bermejo, and that was it.
Now I can get out of here.
Our next discussion is going to be Dark Knights of Steel, Tales of the Three Kingdoms, #1. There's 3 stories in here, so I'm actually going to shout out the creative teams from all 3 stories. The first story is written by Tom Taylor, art and color by Casper Wingard, letters by Wes Abbott, cover by Neil Googe and Antonio Fabela, variant covers by Dan Mora. It's EJIKURE and JANACLETO and Romulo Fajardo Jr. Edited by Ben Abernathy, Superman created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, by special arrangement with the Jerry Siegel family. The second story, The Flock, is written by Jay Kristoff, art by Sean Izaakse, it's IZAAKSE, colors by Romulo Fajardo Jr., letters by Wes Abbott, edited by Ben Abernathy, and the final story, King's Bane, written by C.S. Pacat, it's P-A-C-A-T, art by Michelle Bandini, colors by Antonio Fabela, letters by Wes Abbott, and edited by Ben Abernathy. And apologies for any and all name butchery on this one. This was a cool I've been enjoying this Dark Knights of Steel story in general. And the idea that we were going to get something that was a prequel piece that told tales of this universe beforehand. I'm fascinated by this world. I would love for this world to be a continuing, ongoing series of stories like this. And I hope we get more of this because feed me more. When you're giving me this type of thing, it's what I love. This is the best of Elseworlds. When you're able to say, this is a fully realized world. It's a fully realized planet. It's such a great concept. And they're able to pull in from the entire DC universe from this and reimagine everybody from this time frame. The whole Arkham Orphanage piece in the beginning, I think is fantastic. I'm like, oh, wait, this looks like it's going to be a Jimmy Olsen story. And it is. And how Jimmy gets introduced to the elves and Clark and in such a different way than what we're used to seeing. But yet I love that there is the right amount of nostalgia of Perry's his father figure and, everything that we love about that. What a great opening piece for this.
Well, and to it, Oswald Cobblepot and Harvey Dent and just everything that went with this. I was absolutely loving this. And again, everything you said about, and I'm going to completely redoing and echoing, I was nodding my head as you're talking about this, this whole the Dark Knights of Steel universe. I 100% want to see this continue. Again, fully fleshed out, realized, absolutely brilliant Elseworld. I want it to be its own Earth. I want Batman of this world to visit that one, or a Flash come in, or somebody else, so I want crossovers between this universe and Prime. I want a complete establishment of this universe. I don't want it to die because I'm having so much fun with it. Just the main story and then the side stories. And again, neat moments. Again, you have Jimmy Olsen, of course, he and Kal-El. He's Superman's best friend. So in this universe, there's got to be that connection to him as well. It's like outstanding. I cheered with those moments. And I love how each of the 3 stories has their own distinctive art style.
Yep.
And they needed to do that with the different stories. One, to really help divide the stories, but also it does help add to the flow and the feel and the vibe that each story has, that they have their own personalization of the look and the feel and the groove to it. So 100% love the story told, love the physical look of the book. So happy that with this.
Yeah, I am too. The physical look and everything is great. I think the art teams that they used in this were spectacular. there was a sense of wonder, a sense of excitement, a sense of exploration that I really enjoyed. I agree with everything you're saying about crossovers with this, even more than, and this isn't yes to everything you just said, so I'm going to put an exclamation point off of that. Taking it further, though, what I really want out of this is further fleshing out of this world, more stories set in this world, and as its own entity. And I think, basically what I'm, fingers crossed, as I'm looking over what looks like it's coming with the multiverse and the exploration of it, I thought on that cover it looks like this world was one of the worlds that is featured on the cover.
I think so. I think this Kal-El was it was his arm.
I think so too.
Yeah.
So I think that is a good sign that this is something that they believe, or something that they're establishing as part of the greater multiverse, the infinite if it's still. Here's the thing: we don't know the ending of Dark Crisis yet, but
we've got a good idea, but we 100% don't know yet.
And multiverse is such a pivotal concept to DC. It's funny how Marvel's doing things right now, and I want to be very careful in how I'm doing this. I don't like pitting the Marvel's doing this better, DC's doing that better. I think one of the things Marvel is doing really well, though, is, they're putting the multiverse in their amusement parks now. That's like such a great thing. That's Disneyland. They're doing a whole attraction based around a multiverse concept.
Yeah.
And with King Thanos, the idea, what if Thanos won? I'm looking at that and I'm like, this came out of DC. It's really something where if I'm Warner Brothers, I got to be taking a look at that and going, we have got to get our act together. I say that because they've got everything they need to make cool stuff right here, right in these books. This is an example of great source material for that, because I want to see this animated. I want to see this as a television show. I want to go to this world in an amusement park. Obviously they don't, I know that they have a relationship with Six Flags, and maybe they build further on that relationship, but the idea that I can fly somewhere and go and take part in a Marvel multiverse is super sweet to me.
Yeah.
I would love to be able to do the same thing with DC. I would love to play a virtual reality game where I go to this world. With that virtual reality becoming more and more popular and more accessible for consumers, this is a great world where, my gosh, this would be a great role-playing game.
Yes. And this would be, I would love to have an MMO where you could travel to the different worlds. You can travel to the different multiverses, and you could travel to this as being one of the worlds you could travel to. And your character would have to modify your character so it's a night, version of your character. Or if you're going to the vampire world, you're modifying it into the vampire. Are you on the vampire side, or are you on the vampire hunter side? And kind of changing it that way. There's so many different things that with the multiverse they could do outside of just great stories that we're getting, that I'm like, I wish we had this.
Yeah. When Jimmy's talking to Cal on the rooftops, it was such a great sequence of events, seeing these two bonding in a unique and different way. And you get the idea of why these two would become friends and what there would be. Jimmy is a tether of sorts for Clark. Always has been in our world, and we see that even more here. I love when he gives it to Clark, he hands the thing over and goes, listen, this helps you see great distance. Maybe it'd even let you see farther. Oh, great, Rao, what do you see? I see everything, and he does. You get the idea from the image that the Clark's not just throwing that out there. He sees so much more now because this just enhanced him even further, which I thought was really cool conceptually. Whether Clark was making it up or not, there was still that sense of wonder that it was adding to in that sequence. This story based off of the idea that kids are going missing from an orphanage. What creature? There's rumors of the kind of creature. And I love how Clark's investigating it, and then Bruce, we see the detective there.
Yep.
And we see, their version of Supergirl, and they're all investigating it together, because it felt like, I love the age of them here, because it felt like something out of Goonies. It felt like some of my favorite movies growing up were this type of things, where it was they're younger kids, where there's that sense of adventure, that sense of wonder, stuff I liked in Raiders of the Lost Ark and that type of thing, and pulpy stories. You get here with this kind of mystery. Them interviewing the two kids, and it's Oswald and it's Harvey, and they're talking about Waylon went missing too, and I'm like, Waylon Jones, you mean Killer Croc's in this? What is Killer Croc like? And I love this turns out to be this horror story where these kids are the way that they are because they've been experimented on. Horrible atrocities have been committed to them, And we've got this creature. I didn't know it was going to be a man-bat story, but I loved that it made so much sense that it was. Was the villain really a villain, or was the villain in the right? And you're like, well, yeah, the villain was just trying to take care of his friends and make sure that they didn't go through what he did. I love that aspect of this story. It's such a cool story.
Oh, big time. And one of the things I loved was just the different, you really solid see the personalities of the characters, of the people. Clark, Bruce is the detective there. And he's actually, I love how it's him interacting with Oswald and Harvey to get the information out of him. Then when they're going there, just that little banter between Clark and, because Clark has to carry Bruce, just that little funny banter between the two of them. And then when they're in the cave, Kara is the one who rushes off, because they can't use their X-ray vision because of the lead in the cave, but they hear it and she rushes off. Again, it really does show these different characters. And then as they're there, the big fight, of course ensues. You see the monster, got to slay the monster. No, it's not. And it was just brilliant storytelling in that, you have all the classic elements of a cool superhero story told in this universe. It fits who the core of the people are, but also fits who they are in this universe.
Yeah, I agree. This Jimmy's Telescope piece where they're doing the mystery, and I loved how they were finding the clues, and they were teamed up together. It needed all three of them to find where the kids actually were. The battle was amazing. I really enjoyed seeing the battle, how you're like, okay, it's going to be this epic battle with Man-Bat, even though you find out what was wrong there. The idea that the father in the end has to make this decision, as far as, well, how much am I going to scold these kids? They kind of did the right thing, but they disobeyed what they were supposed to do too. I loved the fact that it felt like a parent trying to find the right balance of, okay, what do I say or do here in this situation? I thought worked really well.
Yes. Yeah. Again, really fits this universe and fits their characterization. So again, you gotta love the fact that the Wall, is the general. It's like, oh no, we're not gonna execute you. We're not gonna put you in. You're gonna work for me now. And I'm like, yeah, Task Force X is born.
The next story, The Flock, with the Harley Quinn story. This is an example of where, when you're doing anthology titles like this, it's great to have different art teams.
Yes.
Because it immediately takes you, the art team is very complementary to the universe and everything, and they belong. But this sense of different age, different story. Now we've got Harley Quinn, who clearly has a crush on Cal. And you've got Batman, yet she is so clearly, you get why she's an advisor here and what their relationship's like. I love the reason for Batman donning the mask.
Yeah.
I've already got my own mask. I'm trying to hide out. And even the nod to the glasses, that's your disguise. I thought was such a cool thing in this whole scenario. This being a story that introduced the Robins, where it goes back and says, when did they first meet? How did they first meet? And what was going on with this particular group of orphans? What were they trying to do? It made a lot of sense. It was something that Bruce could relate to, where he was also an orphan. He landed into privilege as an orphan. They aren't. Yet they're trying to do the right thing in their own way. They're trying to move the needle forward. They're trying to help other people out. It's a Robin Hood. Robin is a Robin Hood story.
Yeah.
And I really liked how they utilized that Robin story for that. Bruce admiring the skills of the Robin as he's facing, because Bruce is very skilled at this point in time, but wow, this kid, this Robin that he's chasing, he's chasing Dick Grayson, he can admire the fact that he's got a very different skill set than what he has, but ultimately gets captured because he chose to do the right thing to save that kid. I thought that was great.
One of the things I loved in this story is when I did my art read through, I took my time and I was looking through the sequence where Harley, Clark and Bruce are out and about, and you just look around them. One on the bottom, you see "Wanted the Robin" sign on the ground. Yep. You got the little kid running. He's got a cloak that looks just like Ragman. Behind them is someone who's got a Deathstroke looking type mask where it's the black and orange kind of off there. You see someone with a Bane, what looks to me like Hawk and Dove, and just the variations on the different costumes out and about in the city light within, as in, his people out in costume. And I thought that for me was a really clever usage.
Yes.
of all this. And everything you said about the Robins, 100% love. The fact that throughout this, we keep seeing that. We keep seeing the one of the Robins and then when the moment when they first appear, you're just like, oh, that is brilliant. I love the usage of that. It was Dick Grayson who did the initial lift of the necklace off of Harley Quinn, and then he's fighting Bruce, and he's slipping away. Because he's bobbing and weaving. He's the acrobat. He is who Nightwing is. And that moment when he's got to make the choice and save the child, who looked a lot like Joseph, Slade's kid.
Yep.
He had that same similar style to him. So I was like, for me, these little moments made me go, man, that is cool. Yeah. And then you see Clark carrying all the rest of the Robins, and you can identify which one is which. Stephanie, Jason, Tim. The one I'm assuming is Damian. And we got it. We got the full crew of all the Robins. I was like, that's awesome. Loved how the birth of the Robins came about, in that they were thieves, and Bruce is like, oh no, these are people we can use.
Even at Duke.
And Duke, yeah, sorry.
Which was great. It was great. I wasn't. That was more adding on to what you were saying, not disputing it. It was Duke was there too, which I thought was a cool move. It was a neat sort of handling of that story. And the moments with Harley Quinn and I captured the ringleader. I'm keeping her. Yeah, that was great.
Oh god, this Harley, she fits what a Harley Quinn would be. She fits that kind of personality, but there are moments when there is an intelligence to her. There is a little bit of that, where, like when she's sitting there telling I love the moment when she told, Clark, there's nobody in more, dire need of a hug than Prince Bruce. I'm like, yes, he does need a hug. Of course, no one should ever do that because that'd be dangerous, but I can understand I understand her point. And I like seeing her being used this way, where she's not the villain. She is this comedical moment, but she does have some sound advice.
The Bane story that wraps this whole thing up was, I saw where that one was going.
Yes.
And I felt it right from the beginning, but that's an example where sometimes you can telegraph something. You almost need to, it's like that's another example of where it doesn't matter that I kind of knew where the ending was going to go. It was the journey was so cool because you got what Bruce was doing. And the party that's like, this is somebody that's loyal to the Waynes, feels like the Waynes should still be in power, feels like Bruce should be in power, and is willing to make that happen, willing to train Bruce so that way there can be a coup and they can take down the elves. I don't believe in these aliens. So you get that Bane has been infected, and I like the variation on Bane's story that his back's broken, but it's because of this twisted serum that's running through him that he's able to do the things that he can do. He wants to be Bruce's loyal knight. He wants to make Bruce into that person. Sees confidently that Bruce is going to recognize his loyalty, go along with all this, when ultimately Bruce doesn't.
Yeah.
The people around the table are right. But I love that we've got the Fiddler and these, different characters that are like sitting here saying, he's not going to come. And then they're shocked when he's there, and they're bending the knee to him because they believe in him. The training sequences were phenomenal. I mean, it was such a cool, the placement of this story was great. It needed to be the last story because it just felt like an epic ending of all of this, which was really good.
Well, and I'll tell you, I loved how we had this version of the Secret Six in there, where you had Scandal, Ragdoll, Cheshire, and Fiddler, and of course Bane in on that. Granted, they're not six; there's only five, but Bruce makes the sixth, so that kind of worked for me. But you're talking about the training sequence again. I loved how it was, initially Bane's kicking his butt, and Bane's like again, and finally when Bruce gets the scratch, when Bruce scores the win, it's Bruce who says, again. That for me was one of those classic Bruce Wayne training moments. And for me, and this really does fit. As I said, that's one of the things I love about this universe, in that it fits their core personality, their core character, but they're personalizing it towards this universe. I 100% can see Bruce, this version of Bruce Wayne doing exactly what he did. It needed to be done how he did it. Brilliant, double cross, even though, I did air quotes around double cross because he is just being loyal to his king.
Right.
Did he really double cross Bane, or was he just being loyal? I think, it's an argument can be made either way, but perfect usage of it, 100% saw it coming. Again, even if you know the outcome, if you tell me a really good story getting there, I'm going to love it anyways.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. It's one of the cool things about this story. This is an example of exactly what I want from this universe. More stories like this. I want the longer form ones like we're getting in the main tale. I want more of this kind of stuff too. And this is another example of this is how you do an anthology. I mean, this was 3 really great stories that cooked. They were the right page count. And it was exactly what I was looking for from these. They added more to the lore of a world that I'm just already loving.
Yep.
Great molecules! They're programming the computers for a chain reaction to blow up that atomic pile!
I would like to remind everyone about our show voicemail line. It's 1-440-388-4434 or Dr. Norge on Skype. We love having you part of our show. RagingBullets.com is our show website, and that's where you're going to find out information about the latest episode releases. That feeds into Twitter. That feeds into our Facebook fan page. RagingBullets@gmail.com is our email address. If you prefer to contact us that way, please feel free to do so. We are proud to be part of an amazing Facebook group community, and our Raging Bullets Facebook group community is really where we get the Speeding Bullets segments from, and I want to thank everyone who participates. We've got such a great crew over there. They really script and make that statement for us. So thank you so much for taking care of that particular segment, and please know we appreciate all of you over in the Facebook group. We are sponsored, as always, by DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. Jim, what's going on over at DCBService.com?
We have Batman and the Joker, the Deadly Duo, issue number 1 at 50% off, $249. Issue 2 at 40% off, only $299. We have Superman Kal-El Returns One Shot, 40% off, only $359. And of course, we have DC's Grifter Got Run Over by a Reindeer One Shot at 40% off, only $5.99. Thank you, DCBS.
Once again, at InStockTrades.com, that's where you'll find the deals of the week. The Batman Detective Comics hardcover volume 3, Arkham Rising, $24.99 regularly, 50% off, only $12.49. Batman One Dark Knight hardcover, $29.99 regularly, 50% off, only $14.99. That is amazing, by the way. Harley Quinn, 30 Years of the Maid of Mischief, $49.99 regularly, 50% off, only $24.99. And Joker Presents a Puzzle Box hardcover, $39.99 regularly, 50% off, only $19.99. I want to thank DCB Service and InStockTrades.com for continuing to support our show. Our next episode, Jim, we're going to be back talking about 2 really cool books. We're going to jump back to Dark Crisis to take a look at Worlds Without a Justice League Wonder Woman #1 and Batman vs. Robin #1. We will see you next week.
Bye.
All right, you guys. Are you ready to sing your song?
I'd say we are. Yeah, let's sing it now.
Okay, this should be fun. Now get ready for your cue. Okay, Sean?
Okay.
Okay, Jim? Jim? Jim!
Okay. Raging Bullets time is here. We talk about what we hold dear. Comic books and TV shows. Superheroes and their clothes. Justice League and so much more. I just love Green Lantern Corps. We talk about the books we've read with spoilers straight ahead.
Okay, fellas, get ready. That was very good, Sean.
Naturally.
Jim, you're a little flat there, so be careful. Jim? Jim? Jim!
Okay. Justice League and so much more. I still love Green Lantern Corps. DC Comics are what we know. The Raging Bullet Show. DC Comics are what we know. The Raging Bullet Show.
Excellent job, guys.
Let's sing it again. Yeah, let's sing it again.
No, that's enough. Let's not push it.
Push it. What is that? Yeah, what are you talking about?
No, I didn't mean anything by that.
I think
Jim,
I don't know.
how long do you want the song to go?
Look, it's